Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I am the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we're very excited to celebrate Laurel Benjamin and the release of her book, Flowers on a Train. So Laurel's going to be reading to us for a little bit here. We're very excited about that. And then we have a selection of readers from Sheila-Na-Gig Online's Summer 2025 issue to read a couple poems and close out our evening. So welcome, everybody. And welcome, Laurel. I'm very excited to have you here and get going. Laurel's got lots of friends here this evening, but some of you might not know some of her background. So I'm going to read her formal bio so everyone gets a sense of where Laurel's coming from. So Laurel Benjamin is a San Francisco Bay Area poet, active with the Women's Poetry Salon. She's the curator of Ekphrastic Writers and is a reader for Common Grounds Review. Journal publications include a whole bunch of places: Lily Poetry Review, Perrine's Fountain, Cider Press Review, Taoist Journal of Poetry, Mom Egg Review, Ekphrastic Review, Nix's Mate, West Trestle Review, Of the Book Literary Magazine, Deronda Review, Gone Lawn, Minion Magazine, Eunonia Review, Moon City Review, Lit Magazine, and Rise Up Review, where her work has been recognized. Certainly your work is being recognized just from being in all those places, right? So lots of great places here. Her work has also been anthologized in Women in a Golden State, The Nature of Our Times, Poems on America's Land, Waters and Wildlife, and Other Natural Wonders, and Turning a Train of Thought Upside Down, an anthology of women's poetry. She received honorable mention for the Reuben Rose Memorial Poetry Competition and was a finalist for the Cider Press Review Book Award and received honorable mention with Small Harbor Publishing. Her work has been nominated for Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, and Laurel holds an MFA from Mills College, and she is a former temp worker, children's book buyer, and community college English instructor. She invented a secret language with her brother, which some of her poems talk about that. So we may hear some of those. And you can learn more about her at laurelbenjamin.com. Okay? Very formal, kind of stiff welcome there. I just want to say, as with all my authors, I just loved working on this book with you, and I'm excited to have this moment where we get to hear you read from your work. So welcome, Laurel.
Well, I'm excited too, Haley, and it's been very special, not just because it's my debut collection, but because you're my publisher, and that's super special. So I appreciate you. So for any of you that are here today, thanks for coming, both Sheila-Na-Gig people, family, friends, writers. I see so many special faces. If you have the book, know the poems, or even if you don't, I wanted to carry you through a variety of experiences, scenes, and places on a kind of a train, as in Flowers on a Train, through memory and eventually a kind of reconciliation. The through line here is loss and how to cope with what's broken. So sit back, put your feet up. I'm going to take you on a journey. With the first poem of the book, it's like a lot of poems where it's an amalgam of experiences. And in this case, I had visited the Netherlands a handful of times, but I wasn't able to put together something that represented what the truth was about my experience. And it was the Johannes Vermeer painting The Little Street, the view of houses in Delft, which got everything together and solidified it. And that's how I was able to write this. So it's called Sketchbook of Delft. Brick buildings dawdle, and door frames can be counted on for their white paint and the soft air of February. And a few leftover thorns grapple up 2 stories. In the corridor, a woman bends with her broom, hips shimmy side to side. Then, freeing her hands, she picks up something she's found. Shutters of the house are closed. I sit across the street at a metal table with salt and pepper shakers, napkins pink and blue, like children almost born. A bowl of salad hums with citrus segments. A couple forks each other portions from their plates as if they've spoken each other's words in a ceremony, and I wonder what kind of wedding cake they ate. Most of my trips have come here with rain, chasing make-believe translations since I don't know the language. After lunch, I walk past a mother sitting sideways on a park bench, combing her daughter's hair, fingers separating long brown waves into braids. French accent, consonants lightly touched. I think of yesterday when my mother told me the news. Count how much longer distance can provide indemnity against my father's diagnosis. Or is it immunity from red tulips sold in corner stands that will make everything right? How much longer will he live with the knowledge that I disobey his advice? One raindrop, then another. Any minute, small gaps will fill the alleyways of afternoon. A number of the poems in the book are about family. There's always so much to say, including this one. And this was actually written to an assignment by Eileen Cleary. I was fortunate to be in 2 workshops with her. And it's one of those assignments that had 10 different ways you had to limit your poem and what you had to put in it, like a body of water, or, whatever it was. It was a real sort of MFA assignment that I had never had. It's called While She Blotted Her Lipstick. I wish my mother had been more precise, like the photos in her head of her mother and the brownstone, or had turned her pocketbook inside out on the mosaic coffee table. Ingredients like sea foam, murky, then clear. Or in a major key, she had praised my Telemann solo, but that would have broken me. On my own, I learned how to scour through what could be had cheap, and in garrulous form ignored the absolute. But I could not pierce the cry of a gull as it threw its breast forward, or lunge of a scorpion. I wish she had ceased fire the missiles she couldn't resist, so I could rest my hand in hers before the stroke, not after. So in 2021, I took some poetry workshops with Lorette of Ekphrastic Review. And because of that, started using art as prompts for my writing. And in fact, most of the poems in this are responses to artwork, although I don't attribute them, mostly because I like them to be standalone pieces that don't rely on the art. At that time, I also started my group, Ekphrastic Writers. The painting that I responded to is 2 women looking at a gallery window. And in that gallery window, there are 2 paintings. It's called Self-Portrait with Flesh. Your hips are as wide as your grandfather's, said my mother, whose breast pointed, then sagged like any woman. She took to Overeaters Anonymous, no ice cream in the freezer, her favorite curtailed, so she would fit into her gloves, particular for small hands. She preferred butter brickle or cashews with ribbons of caramel, bowed and unraveled, as she stood in front of the mirror. In the end, I inherited her gloves, crocheted hats, stockings for skin, a pale shade. In her craving for order, my mother frequented museums. Perpendicular lines funneled into a next room. each painting or sculpture with its own identity card, describing details beyond the eye's reach. Each craving had its own purpose, yet she only had one way out after I was born, when she terminated the lump within, unseeable from the outside. My father finding a doctor who would perform the task. Women are bought and sold, our bodies argued in the highest courts, beyond flesh. Onlookers, the deciders, each of us in our own portrait displayed, where one woman's eyes bug out in the disgrace of ample flesh, another observing a small landscape painting. In that window, you can see me boxed in an ornate frame, ready for sale. I've paid the price, stealing orange cake, crumbs dropping from the sidewalk. Across the street, the candy store just opened, but don't be distracted by tiny chocolates. Look at my thighs. Gloves not enough to cover. Regard me as a portrait of skin and pulp. What's inside, unsacred. Thank you. We used to visit family back east summers. My mom came from a huge family of cousins, so needless to say, there were a lot of people to see. And this poem almost didn't make it into the manuscript, but thanks to some feedback from Megan Merchant, I was able to find the truth in the poem and recenter it in a certain way. It's called We Bought Bagels with Our Cousins in Jersey. The woman who sold them wore a thick sweater buttoned in the middle of 90-degree heat, but we didn't notice. Reaching for the salt shaker on the counter, then opening our mouths wide to the boiled and baked dough, once a field of grain. Now enclosing cream cheese pinked by locks. We sucked the dough before it stuck to the roof of our mouths, then ran back on streets wide enough to nourish birches and planted before foundations were metered and bricks laid. The heat always stayed, metal to touch. The earth welcomed us, squawking raw and sweet from finches overhead. Our cousin said to us, "You have no accent," at these Jersey reunions with great aunts and uncles who left Poland and the Ukraine. Like Tessie, who stayed up until 3 a.m., baking rugula and serving us kasha varnishkas loaded with butter. I knew her sisters sold their wedding rings to bring her over. Yet for us, the war had been replaced by Hogan's Heroes, the same way a remnant onion on a sesame bagel called backwards, the same way we didn't consider the bagel woman and how her accent betrayed everything she escaped. My father was a social worker, and while he had a private practice, he also worked alternately between the Catholic Diocese in Oakland and the East Bay Jewish Family Service. So there were a lot of overheard conversations at home and sometimes strange phone calls from clients. And this is actually after a strange painting called Nuns in an Egg. I had to take out the phrase nuns in an egg from the poem because everyone got confused by that. It's called Dispatch from the Nuns. My father returned with nuns' stories from counseling sessions. Nuns slipped from the headdresses, veiled at the waist, veiled at the eyes. They rounded names and dates and generalities to avoid suspicion, drowsy and blue charcoal from extra duties. Backwards, he said. Sharpened shears for trimming vines hidden in their robes. But what could they do except slice morning oranges, chant in the chapel? How did they take it, bone tattered from standing long hours laundering? To mend priest garments, they wrapped thread tight around their nails. Cuticle nibbled until, like a lit sparkler, bright red dribbled a torrent. My father called it the machine of the church, yet he didn't say it was nothing compared to our family. My brother and I scribbled notes of our own, figured we got it right in case something happened, like solving a mystery. One night, we saw our father crumpling paper from his pocket, so made up a story how he'd have to climb the black oak at the diocese campus. Well-rounded trunk surrounded by long arms of blue oaks. After all, make someone talk was his bark from training. Yet, after 2 years, he admitted he'd underestimated the church. His briefcase, a numbered lock, kept their secrets, even years later. I cannot open it. Missing in the canyon. In this slender stalk, we listened for my brother, our shadows leaving a dance on the red walls, sky to ground. My parents and I, as we replay his childhood, we call his name, a boomerang echo back. Sandstone colors open like tulips, edges peeling back to reveal pink. Kneeling, we sweep ashes of a tiny fire, holding his return possible in these hours. We're told they have a man down there. We'll find him. But this doesn't stop my father from wringing his handkerchief and my mother from staring off to the side. When my brother saunters back up, chewing a red apple from a stranger, his eyes glassy, he shrugs as if nothing happened. And the sun, already low in the canyon, winks. And 2 more poems. This one is jazz related, and it does take us on a journey far away from California onto other places. And I was a big band jazz addict when I was young. I'm still a big fan. This is jazz in the 20s, but it's still, for me, that kind of music brings a certain kind of nostalgia thinking where I'm always thinking, oh, it would be better back in that time, or wouldn't things, the music is so good, wouldn't things be better? I know better than that, but it's hard to resist. So this is called Dispatch from Jazz. At a New York club, I counted the 3 feet away from my seat to Woody Allen as his band delivered a range of mother to pearl to wood. He lived and died in these 20-minute sets of Bechet and Bix, where the clarinet mouthed a small round opening, oranged to the sax's limelight. The club's music traveled to Paris of the 20s, sweet tea and hooch. Josephine Baker shimmied in a flapper dress, arms coaxing us to dance, feathers erect on her head, stuffed swans on the stage. She levitated off the platform, spread her feathers, twisted her torso in time with the maracas. I stepped outside where sidewalk vents of curly-cued metal spoke of the past, saying, "You must try Pigalle." Somehow it was not enough. The differences from back home, no, not that. Too much had changed. One boulevard easily confused with the next. Wet streets echoing buildings, echoing themselves. Past old metro stations and rounded curbs where cafe chairs were locked or emptied. I hoped for a lot more. Daylight through the wet park, past the orangerie, without music, without blurry lights. Yet the rounded shapes of bushes signaled how the notes once sounded. And I'll read the title poem for the collection, Flowers on a Train. Flowers fall off her shirt onto the floor, turning into the sea as she texts into her phone. And because, like her, I've cried, under sunglasses, into my tea, under the shower, scalding, at the top of steps between classes. I inhale the violet, the tangerine, the rose. Flowers fell off my skirt one Christmas. Punch at a party, attentions of the bass player staggering to get more into his glass. I needed a refill, staring at white lights hung on the kitchen's bare walls. Almost close enough. Then the band started up and he took his place next to the piano, the drums, and my saxophone boyfriend. When we drove back home over the bridge, I compared each musical temperament as the punch's anesthesia wore off. Flowers on a train, why do you cry? A saxophone player, or did you wake in the middle of an impermeable song? A trembling honeyed sweater, sunglasses on your curly crown. Do you see me a few seats away? Your flowers crawl up my legs, thick velvet pile, silent, wet. Thanks again to everyone. Thank you so much, Haley.
Thank you, Laurel. It's great to hear you read from the collection. We can really, I don't know, we can see the paintings and not see the paintings because you do make them your own very much. So really exciting stuff. So thank you so much for sharing. We have been celebrating Laurel Benjamin and her debut collection, which I forgot to say the first time, Flowers on a Train from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. So find it. It's great. All right, we will be segueing now into our invited mic portion of our event, and we have a number of folks here from our summer Sheila-Na-Gig online issue, also here to celebrate Laurel's work. So we're going to start with Linda. I don't know if you saw my little message there, Linda. So welcome, and we'll get
okay. I just unmiked myself. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Laurel, for reading from your new collection. Congratulations. Okay, I have two short poems. This one was published in Sheila-Na-Gig a few months ago, I think, or last year. I can't remember. It's called I Watch the Laundry. I watch the laundry through the open door as I read about you dying, drifting in and out as reported, the grim army approaching steady as your right hand, firmly holding down the tremoring left the last time I saw you. We listened to arias on your turntable and ate all the good chocolate friends kept bringing you, and you said, I think this opera is too sad for this sadness. You were equal parts Buddha and Bukowski, so we smoked a pipe and spun Mick Jagger as you told a story of ancient monks able to fly, your left hand suddenly stilled, and the smoke from our mouths kissed in the air, then dissolved. This morning, the white sheets whip on the summer line like inhospitable shrouds, waiting to be filled with your incoming light. Your Tibetan bowls are singing in the other room, and I realize I have waited all week for this moment. And this one is called Mandarinas. The night was so quiet, I could almost hear the stars, that place laden with pines. Your eyes hard to read across the air between us, air you swallowed whole with, I'm sorry, I need more room. But I believe in gestures, in the plate of mandarinas served at dawn when you knew I needed feeding. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm going to read first the poem that appeared in a recent issue of Sheila-Na-Gig. It's called Lost, and it's got an epigraph because it was written after a poem of Linda Paston. It depends on the day. what the poems do, the ones not written because work, because kids, because arthritis. It depends whether what happened is that they got lost in swirls of mist or stumbled too close to the boiling cauldron. It depends on what they needed to do. Were they singers or stompers or just trying to whisper, "I love you," through the galaxy to their alien counterpart whose title is not poet, but a word that means more to the alien than poet means to most humans who walk this weird planet. But the trouble is, every once in a while, a poem not written prompts a faraway star that is sold to 6 planets to turn supernova, dooming those spheres, some of them fertile and sweet, some of them home only to sand that swirls into consummate clouds, signifying the end times for song, for spring, for any modicum of joy. And after that, we're probably in trouble because, well, nobody knows what happens after that. And this poem is called Projection, hasn't been published yet. The empty bowl is not wistful for flour, yeast, warm water, salt, the makings of bread. The soil has no desire of its own, tomatoes or roses, lawn or no lawn. The fabric is not interested in the skirt pattern. A spool of beige thread is indifferent to the button. A body of water does not care whether you admire its hue, its depth, its greeny bank or pebbled bottom. The maps of Paris, London, and Berlin are not impatient for your furrowed brow scrutiny. The people into whose faces you look, wondering, could you love me? May I love you? They are strangers. The blank pen does not whisper, I am waiting for the finest words you can muster. My pen is mute, its sigh inaudible. Thanks for listening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laurie, and beautiful poetry from Laurel and the open mic readers. It's nice to be in the company of such beautiful voices. In Buddhism, Kuan Yin is the goddess of mercy, and so this first poem is called Kuan Yin. The goddess of mercy. I see her on altars, in temples and parks, stone and granite flowing, her fine profile sketched softly in marble. I have her sitting on my bookshelf, sculptured in jade. When dust rains, I polish her gingerly and speak, hoping my voice, tiny in this burning world, is heard. But I am talking to stone. Where is the mercy in a statue? If only her kindness would shine from all our jaded hearts. And I'm going to be a grandma for the very first time in September. And so this is a very new poem, Waiting for My Granddaughter to Be Born. While the world falls apart and I worry about shelter and rain, wars break daily, in country and out. Everyone's tomorrow tumbles like dominoes on a wobbly table. I tell my son I am writing a poem for his daughter. He says, stay away from roses, Junes, moons, Ferris wheels, and all things that turn, for the turning makes one dizzy. But it is in the turning that I wait, with the world in its fall, for that magic word of arrival, bringing all the good that rings with a greeting. Welcome to the world, your turn. Thank you.
Okay. Is it me? I think it's me, right? Okay. 2 poems that I have. I've already read the from the last issue of Sheila-Na-Gig at one of the sessions. So I'm going to read two little poems from my book that's just out from Sheila-Na-Gig, Shaky Music from the Angry Air. And the first one I'm going to read did appear in Sheila-Na-Gig 2 issues ago. First one is called Messenger Without Umbrella. The generous puddle that grows in our driveway from leaky sprinklers looks like a hole full of stars tonight. Magnetic splurge, burning arc, I feel hope. Not the greeting card variety, more a murmur, a nanosecond of gentle elemental fire. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that's the stuff of eternity, and so I am eternal. Don't bother to try and get at the I. Alan Watts said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. That's a crater full of stars, too, a jaw gnawing at supernovas and black holes. That's chasing the idea of self. I don't believe in whispers or wet umbrellas, don't believe in belief. The little blue-white lights in this accidental pool seem a piece of chance advice, by way of Duchamp, perhaps. Marcel would ask, did you know God's mother was a hairdresser? And I'd say, no, but it figures. My grandmother was a red-haired universe, and she managed her own salon for nearly 50 years. All right. And the next one is called Night Whispers. I've been hidden way the hell out here, 100 miles plus northeast of Los Angeles, in a breathtaking stupor among the locals, everyone with sand in their hair and in their scuffed leather boots. It's a beautiful night in the Mojave, though no one is listening to the low lecture of the hills or the river, humming a warm breeze, interspersed with the burble of nighthawks. What does it matter? Circa 1875, everyone in the City of Angels knew one another, or at least their families. There were no such class distinctions as we have today. Now it's midnight in early August, and everybody in that flat city is alone. Out here, the stars flirt with me, and I'll pour an iced tea, slide the flesh of a fresh lemon wedge onto the lip of my glass, make a call to a friend, and talk about my tumor as the old adobe cools among the moonlit Joshua trees. This desert by day tells you so many lies, you have to write them down to keep them straight. Night whispers terrible truths about spring. Thank you. Oh, and thank you, Laurel, for beautiful reading poignant poems.
Hi, I think it's my turn. Yes, thank you, Laurel, and you others. These are always such rich readings. I'm Wendy McVicker, and I too thank Michael set the example. I too read my poem from the summer issue of Sheila-Na-Gig at another of these summer readings, and so I thought I would read something new and also a poem from my book, Alone in the Burning, which I thank Haley for. And I'm going to start with that one, a summer poem. I'm writing to you. I'm coming to you from southeastern Ohio. When I was alone, tiger lilies lined up along the wall, orange patches nodding in the gloom. A crocodile circled the dark lagoon. In that story, the children were lost and never found. And this is new and it's more watery. It's called Buried River, and it's for a small river in Switzerland called La Louve, which is also a she-wolf. She ran wild through the woods, leapt over rocks and branches, danced through sunlight and shadow, and when she reached the city, they buried her under cobbles smooth and silky gray as smoke. She disappeared, a dream lost in clouds and snow. Can you hear her howling along the ridges? On stone bridges strung above the city, we see how she meanders and falls, plunges to a central square, pools beside the fountain, river, lost and buried, wild arterial blood pumping under our feet. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marie Minney. Laurel, thank you for your reading. I especially related to your jazz poem because I too grew up on big band jazz. The first poem I'm going to read is my poem from the summer online edition called The Chasm of Silence. I've written about my father before. He's like a specter appearing in the corners of my mind, a dominant and domineering force. A question of conversation with my counselors, a shadow looming over all that I do. I see him in my face, in the mirror, hear him in the modulation of my voice. Some of the things I say, creeping into my mannerisms like English ivy. Some say he fucked up my life, the germ of my dispiritedness and angst, the anticipation of offing myself. I'm not so sure. I see him now eating his depression dessert of coffee poured over sugared saltines. Hanks, I'm so lonesome I could cry, calling from the walls of his box-shaped courage. His death left an overwhelming stillness. Across the chasm of the silence, I could finally hear the echo of his voice, how hard he worked to help me along in life, how much he loved me. I just wish I had given more of that back. My second poem is from my Sheila-Na-Gig Editions collection, A Woman in Progress. My wife and I just celebrated our 44th wedding anniversary, and this poem is one that I wrote on our 41st. It's called 41. 41. And I don't mean George H.W. Bush. I mean us. Two fragmented Sergeant Pepper's lonely hearts, stimulated and inspired by diverse elements, cross-pollinated into one queer variety. I want to bleed poetry for you, shout hallelujah until my lungs explode, sweat psalms of thanksgiving and praise. Youth, like an out-of-focus photograph, glazed over by time, raising our heads toward heaven in veneration, sentient shadows seeking the mind asylum, souls colliding on moonbeams. Beauty out of chaos, creating our own diverse presence, pieces of ourselves forever in the other's heart. Motionless in the Amish bed and breakfast, kissing deeply and honestly, 11 on the McDonald's pickle scale, claiming our transformative love, a revolutionary act. You said you loved me very much. Space stilled, time stopped, lightning in a snowstorm, radiant light miracle. For the first time, after all these years, I finally believed it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I think I'm next. How wonderful to be a part of this community. Amazing poems. Laurel, I loved your work. And I have a train poem too. It was in the Spring 25 Sheila-Na-Gig Online. I'll start with that. It's called On the Train from Edinburgh to King's Cross. The land is fast receding out the window, a conveyor of pastoral undulations. Fields flocked in turn with creamy tuffets of languid sheep and the dark angles of crows. I am worn down by this leaden skyline and the self-righteous cacophony of factions in my newsfeed, and the only destination I am drawn toward is a seat alongside reported victims of cruelty. But I no longer know how to get there. I think of Philip Larkin commuting southwest from Hull to London, peering into a procession of trackside courtyards, catching fragments of Whitsun wedding rites underway. Larkin the loner, his verse by turns pissy and angelic, walled off from inexplicable layers of matrimony by a rattling pane of glass. So it is for me in suffering, this contented travel with my beloved in time of wars, the Holy Spirit a sputtering flicker somewhere far off stage. We too saw wedding parties along Edinburgh's Royal Mile, weaving through touristy throngs, punctuated by seagull cries and bagpipes ricocheting off the smoky stone facades, grooms and brides and their pastel-hued retinues, trailing a glaze of alcohol as they cosplayed their way into an intention of lifelong commitment. Such a brash swerve out upon this indifferent, simmering planet. Southward we clatter, and fields yield to suburban metastases. High-rises sprout, graffitis clad the trestles and transformer stations as brazenly as in Madrid or the Bronx. One more dinner and a bed rest in London, and then we fly home to a festering heat dome and our own particular folio of national bigotries, where we will not be out of sight, only somewhere else, still bewildered. And this second poem was in Lily Poetry Review recently. It's called To a Favorite Aunt. A good soul dissipates, and we are left with a tinge of attic dust on the tongue. The library, shuttered or sold, with all its great volumes. A fog bank reluctantly settles, the tide is neap. This world, how it dazzles, and you always listened. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Jerry, and this first one is about two senior citizens who happen to have long ago been married, but now have been long divorced. And because of life's issues, they are meeting together to discuss something very serious. Unfortunately, they've chosen a noisy Starbucks as a place to meet. It's called Meeting with a Former Spouse at Starbucks. I expect a scalpel in her tone, words well rehearsed and sounding like they came from a feminist track. And she too, I'm sure, thinks she will hear glib dismissals of her concerns, the sort I would give over bedroom griefs or parenting woes. We greet one another with a cursory hug, remind ourselves that we must decide what we together will tell the kids. While timers beep, blenders roar, baristas shout out orders, names, we search the menu for something we know. Branda, Verona, a Mount Batur blend. Too many choices. Consumers behind us complaining. We place our order, unsure what we'll get, move to a table, adjust our hearing aids. Recall the days we'd lick a stamp and mail shared rants condemning Reagan to the Eagle Beacon, and then wait until their publication day. And as we sit, she reaches toward me, places her left hand, like long ago, gently on top of mine. That touch says, let's slow down, dear. Take a moment before we sip this noisy brew. Thanks. And this one is from a time long, long ago, and a time before some of you were even born. I'm go back to my junior high days in South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it's called Discovering Empathy. Junior high, 1959. We played strip poker after school. 2 Catholic girls, 2 shy Lutheran boys, on Wednesdays when Sally's parents worked late. We'd meet at the corner outside of St. Mary's after the girls' religion class and walk together to Sally's house. Bobby and I both puffing on camels, Dolores and Sally describing to us the games they had planned for us that day. With Elvis and Paul Anka singing to us sweet tarts and juicy fruit on our breath, we'd shuffle the cards on the living room rug, remain mostly innocent girls and boys and ignorant of intruders with guns, abusive clergy, dangerous drugs that didn't plague us kids 60 plus years ago. But tonight, I watch news from Gaza, Ukraine, disgusted by gore and political greed, and think of Dolores, who joined the Peace Corps and died in a crossfire, bullets in Somalia, of Agent Orange that stole Bobby's lungs, leaving his wife, 3 children behind, and of Sally, sweet Sally, who went to New York, joined the Sisters of Charity, worked 40 years in Harlem, teaching and feeding the homeless. She and I talked until COVID took her, but never mentioned those junior high days, the way we kids watched over one another long ago when we threw on our clothes quickly before her parents got home. And that's the end. Thanks.
I am Simona, reading from Northern California. Congratulations, Laurel, for your for the publication of your book. Thanks for the beautiful reading, and thanks everyone for the usual great variety of poems that is the hallmark of Sheila-Na-Gig readings. I have 2 poems. One is from the summer edition of Sheila-Na-Gig, and the other published elsewhere. Divestment. Malel Dunes North, Humboldt Bay National Wildlife Refuge. Walking on oceanside dunes, we expect our steps to sink, to wrench our feet from the sand's clutch, make arduous progress to where the beach, bathed by waves, is compact. Grasses and flowers evolved to thrive in barren soil, salt-carrying wind, sun-blanching fog. A walk along the tide line shared only with scurrying sanderlings and driftwood logs. We climbed the 4 dunes, turned all around to savor the view. Sage green ocean under low clouds, beach, back dunes, and just past them, trees, before our gaze reaches the bay. We enter the shaded vaulted space of and resinous air of the forest, floor embroidered with pale, lacy reindeer lichen, dotted with bright red kinnikinick berries. When the vista opens again, hills of pale sand, mountains stable to the eye, yet in constant motion. Standing still, we might hear it as a murmur. Sand, paragon of poor habitat, yet the richness around us, like a secret, like something we see if we divest ourselves of expectations, drop even our clothes, like St. Francis of Assisi, renouncing all worldly goods. Colors of the pandemic. Turquoise water of Patagonia lakes brought back in our eyes, carried through security checks, past questions about visiting China, kept alive until the Ides of March when turquoise turned to white. ambulances, tents outside hospitals, ICUs, bed sheets, shrouds, stones on mass burial sites. White solitude of walks in silent parks, white western trilliums blooming unseen on the forest ground, grocery stores lines where we stood, surrounded by white space islands. We found comfort in no double line against white background, not the C word, not someone we knew. Later, a white vial, white cotton balls, white tape where the needle had pierced. Traces or turquoise still tucked into memory's folds, funds to draw from as white kept whirling in the forecast. Thank you.
And Dani, we actually have you up next. I don't know if you saw my little text.
I'm so sorry I'm late to the party, everyone. And Laurel, I missed your reading. I apologize. I was en route. I will be sure to get your book so I can catch up on what everybody was able to be a part of. Okay, so my first poem is called Maybe Wind Is Not What They Told Us. I wonder where unscreamed screams of women go. Do they twist around intestine and colon, sealing the waste of you within you, the waste then wasting you raw? Do they sink to gut and populate the tissue there, making it glow inflamed, making its future inhabitants glow too? Do they ribbon pharynx, jaw, lips, and tongue, then pull tightly, closing what open allows? Or do cells of unscreamed screams travel our exhales, joining millions of their furied sisters to blow leaves from trees and rip roofs from houses and send 1,700 pounds of water toward sleepy marine villages? Maybe wind is not what they told us. Maybe wind has nothing to do with the high pressure of atmosphere and everything to do with the high pressure of gentle women violated in every way one can be since the beginning's beginning. Maybe wind is our reckoning, our unscreamed screams matched and married for battle. And this one, honestly, I wrote yesterday. And I feel like if we can't share our raw kind of, unsanded words in this space, I don't know where we can. So thank you for the grace. This is called After Reading the Headlines and Crying Again. When they ask what sound love makes, I think of my son draped over me, his voided velvet so heavy and present. I think of the Morse code of his lashes, sweeping the skin behind my ear and lingering there. From the edge of him, through cuts of stars, storm the dark of me, brighting my weeds and dead flowers. Those who promised me darkness did not foresee his thin dusting of gold, or how the bright stone of him saved the spike linen of womb and heart. My son points to the trees. He calls them whomping willows, and why shouldn't he? His tilted blooms grew from small land, thick with death like theirs. He cuts the water now and speaks to the loudest, holding war like sea mist. His short longing, the stuff of smoke and blue bees. When he is older, I will tell him what sound love makes. Then I will tell him how so often we turn history over and play it again. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you to all of our invited mind readers from our summer issue of Sheila-Na-Gig Online, and a special thanks to Simona Carini for curating that wonderful batch. Very exciting. And also great thanks to our featured reader, Laurel Benjamin, celebrating Flowers on a Train, her debut collection from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And you can find Laurel's book and our online journal and lots of other great things at Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com. Thank you, everybody, for coming by.